So I'm here with WWE superstar, former tag team champion, and the Aussie icon who had Perth eating out of the palm of his hand this time last year. Grayson Waller, the pleasure's all mine.
It is all yours. If you need any tips and tricks about interviews too, just let me know. I'm more than happy to take some notes during this interview and send them over to you afterwards.
I always appreciate that. So we spoke to you a couple of times last year in the path to Perth. This time it's because we are nearly on Netflix. We are days away from the first Raw being on Netflix on January 7. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and all of the PLEs for Australian viewers will be on Netflix. It feels like there will be a loosening of traditional TV restrictions potentially for the programs. Is that something that you're sort of feeling within the locker room, and is that exciting?
Yeah, it's super exciting. Obviously, already the fan base on Netflix is a lot bigger. We're going to be in a lot more homes. Pretty much everyone, their mum, their grandma, their cousin, everyone has a Netflix account, and being able to continue to watch NXT, SmackDown, Raw, PLEs, all of it on Netflix is going to be great. But for us too, this is an opportunity for us to kind of show out in a different platform, and not having those constraints of a television network is kind of the way I think about it. I think Netflix believes in the WWE product, and WWE is ready to deliver something huge. And I think Netflix is the perfect home for it.
So for someone like yourself who's so good on the mic and you can say some crazy things at different points, are you able to go even crazier and ramp it up even more and really show an even more extreme side of your personality?
I think there's definitely the temptation to do that, but for WWE, we are a family product, and as much as we like to push the envelope at times, we do it at times when it's necessarily. So even though we're on Netflix and maybe people think that the gloves are off and we can say what we want, at the end of the day, we still want families to come to the show. We still want you to bring your son, your daughter. So Grayson Waller is going to say some mean things, but he's going to be very careful about what he says.
So this time of year, once we hit January, it feels like the road to Wrestlemania really ramps up. And on day one last year, The Rock returned and made his head of the table speech. And then we head towards the Elimination Chamber and Royal Rumble and all those sort of things before WrestleMania. How exciting is this time of year for you?
Yeah, it's super exciting. And this is the time, we start ramping up our work. We're always working hard, in the gym and all those type of things. But this is where the focus goes to WrestleMania. And for us, we don't have an off season. We don't have that time to really relax or anything like that. We actually got to kind of turn things up. So you can kind of feel the momentum in the locker room of everyone's getting really focused and pushing towards next year.
So if you go back to Elimination Chamber, more than 52,000 people in Perth at Optus Stadium. We all turned up. Everyone was excited. It looked like you guys all had fun there as well and really enjoyed it. How do you reflect on the entire experience from there?
Yeah, it was awesome. And obviously getting to have all my mates and my family there was really cool, especially, Seth Rollins' entrance takes about 27 minutes by all the time he does all his conducting and all that stuff. So I had a lot of time to, stand in the ring. And I remember Theory actually grabbed me at one stage and kind of said, hey man, take the moment and look. And, going from wrestling in front of 20 people in a shed in Newcastle in New South Wales to in front of 52,000 people was very cool. And to have my family and stuff second row too was awesome. So I think it's something you reflect on later and you look back, and that was a very cool moment. And I'm glad WWE got to show out in Australia properly.
So from your perspective, you spend your life doing a really good job of antagonising people and making them hate you. Over here, everybody genuinely loved you. And you played up to that as much as you could. You were the fair income Aussie hero. Was it unique having that side of your personality out on TV?
I think so, yeah, definitely. But the thing for me is, I'm always going to be real. I think before I came over, I said, I'm not going to be that guy who pretends to hate Australia because I'm a bad guy apparently on TV. I'm not a good guy. I'm not a bad guy. I'm a real guy. And I think I'm the only real guy on WWE television. I always say what I feel. And I'm very proud of my country, and I'm very proud of representing it. So when I go out on TV, I'm always representing my country. So, getting to do a shoey with Title Vivasta, that was pretty much as Australian as it gets. But it was very strange getting cheered, and I don't know if I liked it. I think that was a nice one-time thing, but we might leave it there for now.
So the WA government has said that they're really keen to bring the WWE back. Everyone who came here talked about how long it took to get here. And it is a reality for everyone. You're in Sydney and it takes you 14 hours to get there. So how did the roster react to the travel and the extra elements of the show when it comes to Perth? And do you feel like we could get something like that back again in the future?
Yeah, I think the roster was pretty shocked, and now they understand, how it's not easy for me when I'm trying to come home and sneak little trips in to see family or friends. It's not fun. But I think they also loved, they didn't just get to come here and do the show. They came out a few days early. They went to Rottnest Island. They got shown around. They show a bunch of the indigenous culture, and most of the feedback I got from the roster was that they loved their experience because not only did they get to do the show, but they got to experience Australian culture a little bit more. And I think everyone kind of wants to come back and experience that again. And I know that, especially the tourism board in Perth, would love to have us back. We'd love to be back, and especially with like the UFC too. I know the UFC's kind of all over Australia too. Like with combat sports doing so well, I think it's inevitable that's going to be happening.
Would it need to be at Optus, do you feel, or could you come for a Raw and SmackDown at an RAC arena like the UFC has, or does it need to be a stadium event to make the effort of flying here?
I think it could work both ways. It's more about who's going to turn up. But the tough thing is, with Perth is a little bit further away from Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and I think you had a lot of people flying in for that show this year. I think almost half of the people were traveling from interstate. So I think whatever stadium we end up doing or arena we end up doing, it's going to be big business anyway.
You did come back to Australia in October. You went to back to your roots back at PWA and wrestled Jimmy Townsend. Like, that's a big commitment to be on WWE TV, come here a couple of days later, wrestle, and then go back and be on WWE TV as well. How did you manage to convince them to let you do it, given the risk of injury involved? And why did you want to do it?
So I think for WWE, it was a quick yes. I had a big presentation plan, but I didn't need any of it. I think right now WWE is very big on giving back and getting involved with the independents. You see, Judgment Day going back to OTT in Ireland. You had me. You have Nakamura going back to Japan. Like, it's not always possible to have shows in those places, but you can send your talent back who are from those places and still represent, which I think is a great idea. I think it's one of the best things that they've done. And for me personally, like, I'm never going to forget where I came from. If it wasn't for PWA, I'm not in the WWE, and I'm very realistic about that. So if there's ever opportunities for me to give back to PWA, I'm always going to do that. And I know there's a lot of talent in Australia. I'm always watching. I'm always keeping a track of who that is. And if there's opportunities for me to give back, I trained up Jimmy Townsend, and I wanted to see where he was at. And the best way to do that is to get in the ring with him. And not only did he hang with me, I think he pushed me a little bit in that match, which was really cool to see. So anything I can do for the Australian scene, because I think the bigger and better the Australian scene is, then the bigger and better WWE is, because you're getting better talent. They're getting talent that's already ready for TV. You see Zarya right now in NXT. The reason she's doing so good is because she was doing so well in Australia. They pick her up and they're like, wow, you're already ready for TV. So the more we do for the scene here, the better it pays off later on in the WWE.
And Zarya was actually in Perth for the Elimination Chamber, where she was taking part in the tryouts the night before, which is quite amazing to think of how close people are. Do you feel like this is the year of the Aussie, the 2025, with Rhea and Bronson and yourself, all such a high profile now? Do you reckon that this is going to be the year where all of you shine at the exact same time and have a massive year?
I feel very much so, because obviously Rhea is who Rhea is. She's already at the top of the company. But for Bronson, I think the last few months, Bronson showed the world what we already knew about him, that he's one of the best, and he's been in these prominent positions. In that bloodline match, like, that's a huge opportunity and position for him, and I think he crushed it. And then I'm ready for 2025 to take over, and I know Zarya is going to do the same thing in NXT, and then who knows who's next. You have a lot of talent waiting in the wings in Australia, and if they get that opportunity, they're going to take over too. So I think 2025 is going to be a big year for the Aussies.
You've done some crazy things in your life. The decision to wrestle, or to allow James Graham to wrestle with you in his first ever encounter in a ring. He's a nutcase from an NRL perspective. I know you're an NRL fan. We're a different market here in Perth, but he spent his life legitimately hurting people. Like, how confident were you that he would perform that moment in PWA accurately and not break your ribs?
So the thing with James Graham is he put a lot of work into that appearance. He didn't just turn up on the day and hope for the best. He was training a couple of days a week for the weeks beforehand. So as much as personally we didn't get along professionally, I was very impressed that he respected what we did enough to go and take that time out of his schedule when he has a podcast, when he has TV appearances, to go and train for that. And then he got in the ring, and I think he realized what we do isn't that easy. And I think you can tell in that moment he got in and was like, wow, this is a lot different to what I thought it was. And I mean that in a positive way. Unfortunately, he got the spear tackle me, so that was a little bit frustrating. But this is kind of my life. I say a lot of horrible things about horrible people, and then sometimes it slaps me in the face and I get hurt afterwards. So maybe I deserved it this time.
You certainly deserved to win the tag titles at Wrestlemania. Such an awesome moment. How do you reflect on it now that it's a few months ago now?
that's one of the coolest moments of my life, and getting to do it with my boy Theory, who I'm very close mates with, and in front of my mum and my auntie, who've been there my whole journey. That whole situation is kind of surreal still to this day. But if my career ended tomorrow, you can't take away that I won the tag team championships at WrestleMania, and there's very few people who get to say they do that. I'm a very small percentage, being an Australian in WWE, but then winning a title at Mania, that even shortcuts it down. So I realize the position I have, and am very appreciative of it.
So your pathway year by year has been really interesting. Okay, 2021, you moved to the US for NXT. 2022, you're challenging for titles in NXT. 23, you join SmackDown, and the Grayson Waller effect becomes really big on that show. 24, you win the tag titles. 25 is a big singles run now the goal, or is it to really establish yourself as the number one tag team in the division? Like, what do you see as your big moment for 25?
I think people are going to be reminded of who Grayson Waller is in 2025. I think the last few months, me and Theory, maybe we took our eye off the ball, and maybe we were too focused on being entertaining, and we weren't thinking enough about being dangerous. And we look at the top of the card and we see the guys who are there, and we know those are our spots. And it's a situation of no one's going to hand them to us. We've got to take them. Unfortunately, that's where me and Theory clash a little bit. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get to those positions, while Theory wants to work hard, be humble, all those type of things. He's the good guy of the group. But I think the world, especially Netflix, is going to find out very quick that Grayson Waller is willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants. And sometimes that's not a great thing, but for me it is.
So from the storyline we look at and we go, back here, you didn't defend Austin at the Elimination Chamber when he got beaten up by Seth Rollins, and we've seen different things throughout the year where it looked like you're about to start feuding. Like, is everything all good, or should we be really anticipating something might occur this year where you two might have a bit of a run at each other?
That's what a real friendship is. If you're really close with someone, you don't always see eye to eye, and there's been situations where me and Theory haven't seen eye to eye, but we've worked through it. Because we know there's bigger and better things for us as a tag team. In Perth, he made fun of Australian culture. He made fun of Vegemite. He was kind of taking Australia as a joke. And it's not that I didn't defend him. I just simply didn't see it happen. I turned my back. I didn't see anything happen. It is what it is. And we've talked about that, and we've got past it. But I think me and Theory is a realistic relationship. When you have two guys who are very passionate and very driven and very stubborn on doing it their way, sometimes they're going to clash. And for right now, we're looking at those tag team championships again, but who knows what 2025 will bring.
I loved when you go back to the Royal Rumble last year when you came out and you gave a nod to the Sydney Kings. Heading to that, my real job is to write basketball and footy over here, and the NBL was stoked when that moment occurred. I've seen your jersey collection. It's one to be admired. And what's your favourite bit of merchandise you've got over the years?
I've got a few, but I think I'm a huge Mighty Ducks fan. So when it comes to jerseys, I've got a Minnesota Waves Gordon Bombay jersey that very few people have, and that holds a very prominent spot in my house. And I actually just got recently a signed Mighty Ducks jersey from the first film by the whole cast, and that's up on the wall now, and that's very nice. But the collection is getting deeper and deeper. I think I need another room to put them all in.
So I've seen you in a West Sydney Razorbacks jersey as well. And our coach over here from the Perth Wildcats, John Riley, a 3-time MVP for the club. Was he one of your heroes?
I will admit I was a Derek Rucker guy. Rucker was the guy, when I was growing up that I was the biggest fan of. As a Western Sydney boy, I always love wearing throwbacks. And that Western Sydney Razorbacks jersey is fresh. Like, I'm a big fan of that. But I got to admit, I'm a Rucker guy. Rucker's on the back of the jersey.
Very good. Well, you can read more about the build-up to any wrestling stuff in the West Australian and at thewest.com.au. You can watch Grayson Waller on Netflix from January 7. Raw, SmackDown, NXT and PLEs are all making the shift. Anything could happen in 2025. Grayson Waller, look forward to watching you. Thank you so much for your time.
Legend. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you, brother.